Hello. So after a little bit of a teething issues, I think I'm live. So hopefully I will continue to give the inputs that I need to give. Also, maybe people will join and we can have a small question answer session also. So warm welcome to this uh, what I call the tips and ties for tool of humanity, and I spell the tool as TULE, and T means thinking, U is understanding, L is learning, and E is empathy. So the point that is of importance, I think, for our discussion, or in fact our overall focus, is to how to think, how to understand, how to learn, and how to empathize in a world where these key skills that makes us human are becoming a little less. So, how do we really develop these again and also reconnect with our humanity is the overall focus. And in that context of obviously, we need to also look at from the point of view of what are the ways in which we can do all these things. So that is where my focus will be. And the channel, of course, has come because of a specific event that is going to happen in my life. I'm going to be uh, 59 years on planet Earth on 10th of December. So people have been saying that we should, I think I should start some sort of a channel to maybe channelize my inputs or thoughts. And in that context, I think this has emerged. And also my experiences of trying to think, trying to understand, trying to figure out how we really do thinking, understanding, learning, and of course, how do we empathize with others. I mean, that is the key sort of focus. So why do we need to do this? Obviously, all of us have thoughts, and in fact, human mind is nothing but a set of thoughts, as we know. But some of us only think, and some of us actually think deeply, and some of us think systematically very rarely. And maybe that is really what we should be trying to figure out. And the purpose of education, as people have said in the past, is also to teach us to how to think, not what to think, which of course we'll find in the context in which the student or the teacher or whoever is the operator will find out. So here our focus is on thinking and developing our ways of thinking, and of course exploring the ways to think is what I will be covering, and also maybe exploring the various ways in which human mind has these developed these capabilities, or human civilization has developed our ways to think as we have progressed in multiple eras, so to say. And in fact, that I think is the key point about that. As the world has evolved, as our understanding of the world has evolved, we also have developed newer ways of thinking, newer ways of exploring, and also newer ways of understanding, to reach to something deeper which connects to us much more, right? I mean, that's a sort of a way in which we have evolved. So how do we really sort of explore these aspects will be the focus. And also the focus also will be on the methods, techniques, and domains that I have been working on, and what we have been exploring in my work in professionally, as well as in personal life also, as well as also exploring in my teaching of various subjects that I happen to teach, and that also will be part of this channel. So hopefully we will make some sort of a sense of the complex world that we have, which of course, if you really look at the last 40 years or so, is sort of governed by what has been called the globalization, and also last 15 years by anti-globalization, if you may, or in terms of making our local sort of capabilities and also local or regional sort of resources that we have should be by the regional people. That is a newer type of a uh, thinking that has emerged. But of course, the same nations, powerful nations that in 1990s were talking about globalization and also globalizing the world, have also started saying now we do not want to globalize. We would like our country to be first. Our people should be focused on our own country first. I mean, there is also this political sort of a messaging that is there. So the world is going through a sort of a transition, which of course needs to be explored and also understood. And in that context, also the technologies, the way we have connected across the continents, across the countries, across various communities, if you may, or various type of cultures that have been separated earlier have been united through these technological pathways that has emerged, and in fact very rapidly they have connected to each other, right? I mean, we have connected to each other, or in fact this whole point about making this particular video also is a clear indication of how these technologies have been able to enable us to interact, so to say, right? I mean, that is of course is the value that we have. Simultaneously, the value also needs to be looked at from the point of view of the impact, the negative impact that it has in terms of making us do things at a pace at which maybe all of us do not want to do, or maybe we do not have the capacity to absorb the speed at which the information overload overpowers us, actually, right? I mean, so how do we really come up with a solution? So there is also the algorithmic way of saying that since the information is so fast and so rapidly emerging, can the algorithms for processing the information be also as rapidly developed by the machine? And that is where the the way of learning of the machines or the machine learning algorithms have become more and more prominent, and I mean, leading to this the revolution since 2012 of AI, or artificial intelligence and machine learning, that is quite visible, and or not only visible, is impactful also. So in that context, if you really see the way the world is emerging or has emerged, as I have been sort of writing also and speaking about the way the world is going to change ahead or transform through these technologies, there is this added element of geopolitical changes. So, as people have been trying to say, the world order is going to shift, or in fact, already shifting towards a sort of a world where we will have a simultaneous type of state of the world where the peaceful state and the non peaceful state of the world will simultaneously be overlapped, or if you want to use the quantum mechanics type of a uh, term, so it's entangled peace and war is what we will have. And the entanglement means that there is no way to separate the two elements in a way. The two particles gets entangled, so to say, right? I mean, that's what we have from the entanglement of particles, or the EPR paradox, which Einstein said that uh, uh, action at a spooky action at a distance, right? I mean, that's a sort of a way in which we say that by understanding the movement or the state of a particular particle, which is separated from its twin, if you may, uh, you can actually estimate the state of the particle, which is its sort of entangled particle, and even if it is at huge distance from each other, infinite distance also. So that sort of a non-local universe, if you may, is also a very interesting sort of a phenomena saying that we are in these entangled or superposition states of various differentiated states that we were earlier thinking that the world is in peaceful scenario and world is in war. In Second World War till now, the 80 years almost, we have now 80 years of peace, as people have been saying, where the peace meaning we do not have a major war of global superpowers fighting. That sort of war has not happened like Second World War. But we should not be very sure of what that. We are going to get into something very complex, very different ahead potentially. And that, of course, is the danger ahead. So, therefore, we need more people thinking, more people understanding, more people learning, and more people empathizing with all of the humanity that we have. Otherwise, the machines are going to take over, as they say, not in terms of the jobs, but in terms of our humanity or human capability that, of course, has made us something unique on this planet Earth. The mind, obviously, right? So, how does the mind really works, and how do we really utilize this instrument that we have? The nature has given us this great instrument of the human mind. How do we utilize it for the benefit or for, of course, making our world less war mongering or less of conflicts, more of peace is will be also a part of what we will discuss. So, given this sort of a background, so our channel or our this particular platform will be more on figuring out how do we develop thinking, how do we develop understanding, how do we develop learning, how do we learn, how do we empathize with the positions that the others have. So obviously, the empathy concept is more of saying that how do we understand the position that other person may be in without really impacted by his feelings, thinking, or state that he is in. But we understand, we learn from what he is feeling currently in the context in which he is or he or she is. And that part obviously needs a observational way or observation, and also a way to uh, interest in saying that yes, I am interested to understand your situation before coming to any particular type of action or solution or identifying a problem that you may be having. So that sort of a mindset is what maybe needs to be developed further. And also, maybe since the time that we have for processing all these inputs is reduced, obviously, the speed at which the world is moving, the information is overloading, and also connections are becoming more and more transactional, and also interactions are becoming very, very transactional. So, how do we really come up with, or how do we solve this particular crisis, if you may? So, the crisis obviously means that we may actually lead to a disaster, and disaster is also a sort of a loss of something which is also can be a great loss of something more valuable, is what we call disaster. So a crisis situation is a situation where with very less time it will lead to a disaster. So this, how do we really figure out that we are actually in a crisis, and how do we calibrate this crisis? How do we really sort of come to a solutioning of this crisis situation, the global crisis that we have? So, in fact, my understanding is that what I call the peace war complex or peace war plex that we have since 2020 after COVID to 2020. There has been multiple trends which are combining together and creating a newer world which has this particular sort of a unique type of a situation that we are getting into, where multiple political, geopolitical forces or technological forces or multinational forces, multinational companies, and their interest are defining or trying to define their way of the world, which actually is in some sort of a clash. The clash or the confrontations are going to escalate. They already have escalated as people are defining more and more of their way of the world, their way and their view, and their also their particular mechanism of how the world should be. Which of course will, once you know the mechanism, when you have the mechanism, when you define the mechanism, you control the world. So obviously this is where the concept of power, or the power in terms of how do I manage more, how do I control more, is obviously what is deriving or sort of defining this whole way of the world. This is not something new. Obviously, we have been seeing this for last many centuries. This is of course a human nature, and there is this particular uh, sort of a finding that the war or the warfare of humanity or human beings obviously have been the only species that has been at war with each other. I mean, we no other animal has done thinking or thought so much about killing each other, right? I mean, we are the only species on Earth which has thought so much and designed and developed mechanisms, systems, weapon systems, and missile systems and warheads of killing each other in such a way that, I mean, it's just amazing that we are ready to kill our own species, and in fact, through that process, the whole planet, obviously. So, how do we really resolve this particular problem? So, here, the whole thinking is that man has been, as soon as we started developing this mental ability of doing complex cognitive capabilities that man has started developing, and also created the symbolic processing of information and associating meaning to the symbolic representation of the physical world, there started a concept of organized violence for political gains, which of course we define as warfare or war, so to say. So the organized violence for political objectives, political gains, or the basically trying to control others, or superimposing or imposing your own will on the will of the others, is also is of course what we are been trying to achieve in this display of power, or the mechanism of how to orchestrate power over others. So, this is where the world of international relations, multiple nations, nation states, and also the power mechanism, power drivers also create a new world that we have, which of course is also now developed or driven by science and technology. The technology specifically for controlling others. This, of course, is a sort of a sort of a way to see the usefulness of technology for achieving certain fundamentally useful purposes. Obviously, is the positive side, but this also leads to, once you become used to uh, used to using the technology for specific type of purposes that are useful, useful in terms of value. They also become a useful ways of control. So this is where the concept of power needs to be understood a little bit more deeply. What is makes these methods or these people who own these more powerful, obviously is the this whole concept or this whole way of controlling our needs or our wants, which of course is what these technological mechanisms offer and also give in terms of a tool, is a control mechanism for the people who wants to control, or the powers that they want to control. So the ownership process of who owns these technological pieces obviously leads to another type of a conflict where the race is not the what we used to have during the Cold War, the arms races. It is really the technological races now, where who can come up with a better algorithm, better way of uh, sort of doing certain correlations, if you may, or how do we really orchestrate different application or apply these newer ways to orchestrate these algorithms to achieve something that we only wants to see or control is of course the race that we have. So this is where should we really allow these sort of technologies to be used against us, against the humanity, against our sort of complete pure existence itself. So this is, I think, the second question that maybe we need to explore in terms of do we need these powers who are owning these methods to define what should we do, right? I mean, what should the others do? And this, of course, is where the bigger nations, the powerful nation states, powerful nation companies, countries also needs to be sort of I mean, we need to understand from where they are coming. Obviously, all these are ways of controlling of our sort of existence, and also that leads to when multiple powers wants to control and impose a particular type of a system, there can be there are conflicts that we have seen in the past. So how do we really reconcile with this multiple type of processes that we are seeing? The world that we are getting into is of course is becoming very rapidly becoming more advanced, more also uh, in the sense that it is becoming more complex because of the speed at which the things that we were doing, say 2 days earlier that we used to take, now can happen in 10 minutes. I mean, that sort of a way of speed up that we have is amazing. I mean, what we have achieved or what we are achieving, but that also leads to our inability to process what our mind is not really mind processes or mind mental mechanisms are not increasing or improving with that sort of efficiency with which our technological connections or systems are improving or changing. I mean, so that way I think there is an impedance mismatch, or there is a sort of a complexity issue that we need to reconcile. How do we really build this capacity to respond to this transformative or exponentially transformative world that we are getting into? And of course, there are these frameworks of or predictions about the singularity, which basically says that these exponentials that we are building on each other, these trends are going to lead us to very complex, very quickly we will be exceeding the biological intelligence through some machine mechanisms or machine intelligences. And Kurzweil, who wrote that book, The Singularity is Near, recently he wrote a newer book called Singularity is Nearer. And earlier the prediction was 2045 year 2045, when we will have the singularity of intelligence, which is basically saying the newer exceeding of the biological intelligence by non-biological intelligence that will be built by us, by human beings, will be by 2045. But I think the prediction now is it will be much earlier. But whatever be the claim, whatever be the definition of the singularity, or what people are also claiming, the artificial general intelligence, as they call it, which is basically saying that human level ability at every level of common day type of work also if machines can do, and then exceed that also in terms of any of the parameters, then of course we are going to exceed. And in that context, this quantum computing, quantum mechanics, also applying quantum mechanical effects on at that particular level are also becoming very, very important from the point of view of achieving that sort of tremendous capability. Simultaneously, the negative impact is that is going to whoever does that, whichever political stream, geopolitical stream, whichever nation, national group, or international group does that is going to be more powerful. I mean, that's the assumption, and that, of course, is the driver for that. So, how do we really reconcile with this? So, given this particular type of the world and the background that we have, so my aim of sharing here on this channel will be to, of course, figure out at individual level, also at maybe at the global level, also at the country's level, national level, also, or a sort of the flavor of the world that we are going to see ahead. What are we seeing ahead? And how do we reconcile and how do we build our capacity to respond to this transformative world ahead will be our focus. Okay. So, having said that, this is where I think we can sort of uh, close. And since there was some issue in terms of doing this first video, I did the link earlier and it stopped, and I had to restart. So maybe this particular one, maybe everyone is not seeing. Although this is live, so maybe you can comment on this particular video. I'm going to post it, and also it will be available. And also, we can sort of next videos, next discussions that we will have. Maybe we can have more people available or joining, and also the timing perspective. So I asked what works for us for the potential students or potential responders of this particular or potential audience of this particular channel. They said that 8 to 9 was one option in the morning and 9 to 10 was the second. So it was sort of 50-50. And Saturday is what we thought we'll do. So maybe we'll sort of plan every Saturday either in the morning 8 to 9 or in the night 9 to 10 will be the timing that we will have about 20-25 minutes of discussion or a monologue, if you may, and then maybe some queries, questions, exchanges, and maybe then we'll sort of cover with, sort of close with some sort of a uh, writing snippets that may be there. So I'm actually going to recite a poem where which I think may be of interest, and this will be in both Hindi and English. So because I wrote this in Hindi first and then translated in English, so maybe this can be a closer for us, so to say. So Hindi poem. नाच छल चलता रहा, जग हाथ मसलता रहा, जो मेरा मेरा करता रहा, वो जीता रहा मरता रहा। र- रोते सोते घटता रहा, मैं तेरा ही बनता रहा, जितना बटा बटता रहा मैं तुझ में पूरा होता रहा। मैं रहा ना खुदा रहा, हर आईना मुझसे जुदा रहा, झूठ हंसा हंसता रहा, सत्य मौन में बसा रहा। So this is in Hindi and I'll just translate. The translation actually maybe for people who do not know the Hindi. Bluff dance continued. The bluff dance continued. The world continued repenting. Who kept on saying mine and yours remained in birth and death cycle. Bluff dance continued, world continued repenting. Who kept on saying mine and yours remained in birth and death cycle. Wakeful sleep states kept on reducing. I kept on becoming yours. I kept on becoming yours. Whatever parts, whatever divisions, I kept on finding the whole in you. When neither I nor God remained, when neither I nor God remained, every mirror separated from me, lies laughed, kept on laughing. Right? The truth, however, remained in deep silence. Thank you. Okay, so we'll close this and maybe in the next video we'll meet. Thank you. Bye bye.